Alright, starting step 8 here. I figure it's time to go into my basic training. Let's start off from the beginning. For when I get ready to go, I had everything packed that I was required to pack, which was very little. I was taken to the hotel by my recruiter, and at this hotel there were several recruits, which also were of varying ages. And I don't remember what rules were set down, but all I know is people were drinking before our flights left the next day. I mean, I will admit I was a little nervous because that would be the first time I was on a plane. I was only going from Iowa to Missouri. But after the next morning, we all get on a bus, get to the airport, get on our planes, and end up where we're going to land. When I get to that airport, I was ushered to a holding area, which I believe was a USO kind of area. And once everyone showed up, we were all loaded up to on a bus to go to Fort Leonard Wood, also known as Fort Lost in the Woods, which you really could get lost in the woods there because there's a lot of woods. When we get to Fort Lost in the Woods, we were, I should say, it was nighttime by the time we got there, and we were all instructed to get off the bus in a yelling manner, like you do see on some of these training videos. We are all ushered into an auditorium and given instructions on how things are going to go for them to process this into our basic training areas, which all that process would include was getting certain shots, getting uniforms, getting all the clothing and materials we need for their training, and along with an ID. Well, I only had a t-shirt and shorts available to me. Well, I shouldn't say that. I actually was wearing cowboy boots when I went to basic. However, we ended up putting on t-shirt and shorts because that's what we needed at that point in time. So I was running around in t-shirt, shorts, and cowboy boots while we gathered all our gear and getting our shots. I believe we had like 6 or 7 shots, and one of them was known as the peanut butter shot, which you get in your rump, which is uncomfortable. I can tell you that much. And it did kind of feel like an assembly line when they were giving us the shots, except for we weren't actually moving. We stood still while the people came to us and gave us the shots. But we were all lined up around the outside of a room when they're doing that. We did have one person have an allergic reaction to one of the shots. Now we get to where we are sorted into our basic training units. I had so many different individuals in these groups. I had a drill sergeant call someone alphabet because they could not pronounce their name. And The soldier was a female, and she didn't seem upset about it, even after talking with her outside of formations. Um, Starting at that point in time, we were doing the hydration formation, and actually, we also went through our shark attack, as it was known. Dump everything out, make sure we have everything, put it back in the bags. Me, as a 17-year-old, was able to handle it. I don't know why the military got rid of it. But once we got that, we got sorted into our barracks, which we didn't have large open bay barracks when I went through, but there are some places that do. But I think since we were a mixed unit, they had us had to do it done that way. But we had like 8 people to a room. And then we were set up into, well, basic training at that point in time was 9 weeks, and every 3 weeks was a different phase. Red, white, and blue. Red was first 3 weeks. I should just say it that way. Was you learned the basics, then you move on to the more advanced stuff, and then the more advanced stuff. I mean, but through the whole time, you would get smoked as an entire platoon if something going wrong. There were other instances where people would be smoked on their own. I mean, we had someone stealing stuff. We found, well, yeah, we did have someone stealing stuff in my platoon. We weren't aware of it, but and at one point in time they got out somewhere and got in trouble. This is the drill sergeant that caught this person was making him jog all the way back to the company. And when the drill sergeant said down, the guy would like jump 2-3 feet in the air and then land down and start doing push-ups. And that's kind of like what we were doing when our platoon was getting smoked. We'd call it what's called front back goes, which front is push-up, back is flutter kicks, and go is running. And we were doing it up and down a hill. We did have a suicide risk as well while I was at basic training. And the guy was really nice, and he had something happen to him, and where he had to miss something, and he did not want to go back through all of it, and I think that's where it caused it. But he was a really nice guy. I would talk with him, and he did teach me some stuff about foot care and helped me with an ingrown toenail. And the difference between what's going on now in basic training and mine was we didn't have cell phones as well, because back then cell phones weren't that big of a thing. So every time we went to a new phase, we'd be able to call our family just to tell them how things are going and hear their voices. But other than that, it was writing letters. And we had drill sergeants that instructed that if there was something wrong on the address of the letter, we would have to do 10 push-ups for every week that we've been there. I got pretty lucky on that aspect. Now, we also had our training and all that I mean, we teamwork building exercises, those ruck marches, and the stuff. I'm going to go do more of the funnier stuff in that. But I do want to say that when we went to our FTXs, we were in two man tents. So it was only me and one other person, and we only had what they called shelter halves, and we had to put a tent up together. I know at one point in time I had actually fallen asleep during fire guard while actually sitting out in my hasty fighting position. And while in my fighting position, and my battle buddy never even woke up. So I ended up, when I realized it, at what point in time it was, I ended up waking up the next people for their shift. But when we were doing a team building exercise, I actually had bumped a red spot, and I swear I heard drill sergeant said jump in the water, so that's what I did. It was it was good, cooled me off. Um, then there was the ruck march back into base, where I rolled like my ankle 3 times and kept on going in the same ankle. And drill sergeant asked, "Okay," I said, "I'm good." Then we get to our that little event where it's like night infiltration, where you're like doing the D-Day stuff, where you're crawling up to some bunkers under razor wires. They have actual live fire going off over your head and artillery simulators. Well, we had some idiots decide they were going to try to attack the bunkers, which they were not supposed to do. So they ended up having to switch it to blanks. That's, and at one point in time, when we were in our final phase where we had the blue guide on, people were being idiots and dancing in an ammo shed, and we ended up just pretty much going to stick phase. And I will admit, I enjoyed basic training, and I would definitely do it again if I could, as long as it was the same basic training I went through. And I will see you next time.